If you have rheumatoid arthritis and you've been told to exercise your hands and your arms, but every time you try it, it ends up hurting instead of helping, then you're gonna wanna stick around. I'm Michelle from Virtual Hand Care. I'm an occupational therapist and a certified hand therapist, and we are gonna do 11 exercises that were a part of a groundbreaking research study with 490 people, all with rheumatoid arthritis. And these exercises, when done every day, were actually proven to improve hand function and grip strength without increasing your pain. You'll do 7 exercises for mobility and 4 for strengthening. So you are gonna need some therapy putty, a resistance band, and a ball. But if you don't have those items yet, at least follow along with me with the mobility exercises. We are gonna start with 5 repetitions, holding for 5 seconds for the mobility exercises, and then 10 repetitions for the strengthening ones, but do what you can. Now, in order to get the same benefits without increasing your pain, you're gonna need to pace yourself just like the 490 people did in the study. They used something called the Borg Rating of Perceived Exertion Scale, or RPE for short. It's basically a 0 to 10 scale to measure how hard you're working. 0 means no effort at all, and 10 is your max effort. That's the hardest you've ever worked. You don't want to be doing these exercises at a 10. If you're even close to that, you need to stop and rest or apply less resistance. So for these exercises, you're gonna wanna stay around a 3 or a 4 out of 10. That's enough to feel it, but not so much that you are straining your joints. All right, let's grab your putty, your resistance band, and your ball if you have it, and let's get started. All right, these first few exercises are mobility exercises, so you're not gonna need any of your equipment. Exercise 1 is knuckle bends, also known as MP flexion. So to do that exercise, you can prop up on your elbow or rest your arm down on a table or on your lap, whatever is comfortable. But what you want to do is bend the large knuckles only into as much flexion as you can while trying to keep the rest of the finger joints straight. And then you'll want to straighten all the way up. So let's go ahead and do 5 repetitions, holding for 5 seconds. I like to use my hand just to kind of lightly rest in my palm as well. But make sure you don't bring your fingers up too high or else you'll block those knuckles. All right, so go ahead and bend the large knuckles down just to what you can do. And we're gonna hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back up, and that's 1, and come back down as far as you can go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back up, that's 2, and come back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back up, that's 3, and back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back up, that's 4. Let's do one more. Down in as much flexion of just those knuckles, just as much as you can, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back up, and that's 5. Okay, exercise 2 is tendon gliding, and there's a lot of different varieties of tendon gliding, but for this one in particular, you're gonna start with the fingers as straight as you can. Then you're gonna go ahead and go into a hook or a claw fist, just to what you can do. Then you're gonna move those fingers into what's called a straight fist, and that's where the large knuckles bend and the PIP, or those middle joints, bend, but the tips of your fingers are straight if you can. And then from that straight fist, you're gonna go into that full fist, and you can place your thumb wherever it feels comfortable. You don't need to squeeze tightly. We're just working on mobility here. And we'll hold that one for 5 seconds, and then you'll go back up straight, okay? Ready? So straight fingers into that hook or claw. So make sure the large knuckles are straight with that. Down into that straight fist. So now the tips of the fingers are straight. And then into that full fist, nice and gentle, just working on mobility. And then hold this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back up. And that's 1. Back down into that hook or claw. Down into that straight fist. Into that full fist. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back up. And that's 2. Down into the hook. To that straight fist. And to the full fist. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back up. That's 3. Back down into that hook. Straight fist. Full fist. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back up. That's 4. Let's do one more of these. Into that hook. Then go to that straight fist. And full fist as much as you can. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back up. And that's 5. Good job. All right, exercise 3 is finger walking, also known as radial walking, because you are going to move your fingers in a radial direction towards your thumb. So to do that exercise, you're laying your hand flat and you want to spread your thumb out as far as you can away from the index finger. And then you're going to move the index finger by picking it up, or you can slide it, whatever you're able to do. Then the middle finger towards the index finger, and then the ring finger and the small finger. And then we'll hold that position for 5 seconds. Go ahead and open that thumb out as far as you can go. And now bring that index finger out as far as you can go towards the thumb there. And then walk that middle finger over if you can. And then walk that ring finger and the small finger. And then you're going to hold that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 1. And then you can go ahead and just kind of pick the hand up or just kind of wiggle it a little bit. All right, let's do that again. Walk that thumb away from the index. Index finger, then middle finger, then ring and small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 2. And then let's reset again and bring that thumb out. And index finger and middle finger. And again, you can slide if you can't lift those fingers up to walk them over. So ring finger and then small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 3. All right, back to the thumb. Index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and small finger. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 4. Let's do one more. Slide or lift that thumb out. Index finger, middle finger, ring, and small 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 5. Good job. Okay, exercise 4 is wrist circles, also known as wrist circumduction. So we are gonna move our wrist in a clockwise and counterclockwise way, but we're gonna move very slowly, counting for 5 seconds and doing 5 repetitions in each direction. You can make as big of circles as you want or as little circles as you want. You can prop up on a pillow, hang your wrist off the edge of a table, or just kind of rest that elbow at your side and just have your arm free to do this one. Whatever is comfortable for you. Just make sure the fingers are nice and loose and that you are focusing more just on that wrist moving. And try not to let those fingers kind of cramp and help that wrist, okay? So nice loose fingers, nice loose shoulder here. And we're gonna go ahead and start in that clockwise movement. Ready? And start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 1. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 2, and again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 4. Let's go ahead and do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 5. Now let's go ahead and go in the opposite direction. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 1. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 2, and again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 3, and again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 4. Don't forget to breathe. And last one, rotate around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 5. Good job. Okay, exercise 5 is finger spreads, also known as finger abduction. So that is moving the fingers and the thumb away from one another. You can go ahead and rest your hand down on your lap or the table. And you're gonna go ahead and just spread those fingers apart, making sure you try to get as much space in between the fingers as possible. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then bring them back together. That's 1. And spread them apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And together, that's 2. And spread apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And together, that's 3. And spread apart. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And together, that's 4. Let's do one more. And spread apart and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And together, and that's 5. Okay, exercise number 6 is wrist backward bends, also known as eccentric wrist extension. You are gonna need a band for this. Always start with a very light band, and then you can always work up and increase your resistance as you get stronger. Now go ahead and if you have a band, you want to wrap that band around your fingers. Wrap it around a couple times just so that you can have a light grip on it. And you want to bring your elbows at your side. You're going to place your forearms in a thumbs up position here, but just kind of lightly relax the thumb and fingers. And what we're going to do is bring those wrists backwards. Okay, so that's wrist extension. And as you bring those back, you should feel some resistance with that band. Now, the great thing about this one is we don't have to hold this for 5 reps, but we are going to perform them slowly. But we do have to do 10 repetitions. Ready? Move those wrists back into as much wrist extension as you can. You don't have to go back too far, just enough to feel those muscles in your wrist and forearm. And then back to neutral, nice and controlled. That's 1. All right. And back. And relax. That's 2. And bend those wrists back through the resistance of the band. And then nice and controlled, back to neutral, and that's 3. And back. And 4th. And that's 4. And back. And nice and controlled, back to your starting position here. That's 5. You're halfway there. Keep going. Back. And 4th. That's 6. Back. And 4th. That's 7. Back. And 4th, that's 8. And back. And 4th, that's 9. Let's do one more. Bend those wrists back against the resistance of the band, nice and controlled. You might feel this in the whole arm. Make sure you're breathing, relax in the shoulders, and nice and controlled back. And that's 10. Good job. Okay, exercise 7 is hand squeeze, also known as gross grasping or gross gripping. And you will need a firm ball for this exercise. So go ahead and place all the fingers and thumb around the ball. And what you're going to do is just squeeze that ball, and then you'll relax and you'll do 10 repetitions of that one, okay? So we're not doing fast repetitive squeezing with this. So go ahead and give that ball a squeeze, making sure all the fingers and the thumb are in contact with that ball. And then relax. And that's 1. And squeeze. And relax, that's 2. You can apply as much or as little resistance as what's comfortable for you. And squeeze. And relax, and that's 3. Squeeze. And relax, that's 4. Squeeze. And relax, that's 5. You can change positions of your hand too if you want to. Squeeze. And relax, that's 6. Squeeze. And relax, that's 7. Squeeze. And relax, that's 8. Let's do 2 more. Squeeze. And relax, that's 9. 1 more. Squeeze. And relax, and that's 10. Okay, for these next two exercises, you will need putty. So exercise number 8 is finger squeezes, also known as finger adduction. So go ahead and grab your putty. You want to lay your hand flat and spread your fingers out, and you're going to place the putty between your index and your middle finger. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just squeeze the index and middle fingers together in adduction through the resistance of the putty. So go ahead and squeeze and relax, and that's one. And you can move the putty around, if you need to, depending on how much putty you have and how that feels for you. And go ahead and squeeze and relax, and that's 2. And squeeze and relax, that's 3. And squeeze and relax, that's 4. And squeeze and relax, that's 5. I'm going to just move my putty a little bit here. Spread my fingers out just a little bit more. And squeeze. Relax, that's 6. And squeeze. And that's 7. And squeeze. And that's 8. Let's do 2 more. And squeeze. You're squeezing the index and middle fingers together against the resistance of that putty. And relax, and that's 9. And 1 more, squeeze. And that's 10. Exercise 9 is finger pinch, also known as tip pinch. So you're going to use the putty again for this, and you're going to use your index and middle finger to pinch the putty. Now, just do this nice and lightly. You do not need to pinch all the way through a large amount of putty. You can start with just a very little bit amount. Remember, you want to make sure you work within that 3 to 4 out of 10 range. So let's go ahead and pinch. And that's 1. And go ahead and go to another part of the putty and pinch. And that's 2. Pinch. That's 3. And pinch. That's 4. And pinch. 5. And pinch. That's 6. And pinch. That's 7. Pinch. Pinch through that putty. That's 8. And pinch. That's 9. And 1 more. Pinch. And that's 10. Good job. And now your last 2 exercises are for mobility of your shoulder and your arm, so make sure you have some space. Exercise 10 is hand behind your head, also known as external rotation. So to do this exercise, you're gonna raise your hand and try to place it behind your head. Try to touch the back of your head if you can. If you can't do that, maybe you can only touch your ear or can't even raise your hand up that high, that's okay. Do what you can. All right, ready? So raise that arm out to the side and bring that hand behind your head. And right when you get to what feels good for you, again, remember 3 to 4 out of 10 pace here. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And nice and slow and controlled back down. That's 1. and back up. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And nice and slow down. And that's 2. And back up. Keep going. Try to go a little farther, only if you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back down. And that's 3. And back up, hand behind your head. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back down. Don't forget to breathe. And that's 4. And again, back up. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And nice and controlled and slow, back down. And that's 5. Good job. And finally, our last one, exercise 11, is hand behind your back, also known as internal rotation. To do this exercise, you're gonna go ahead and reach the back of your hand behind your back, almost like you're gonna tuck in your shirt or grab something out of that back pocket. Now, this one sometimes can be pretty sore, so just reach as far back as you can to what is comfortable. If you have to be kind of on the side of your hip here, or if your hand's a little lower, that's okay. Eventually you wanna work up to where that hand is more on the lower back. But again, do what is comfortable for you, working at that 3 to 4 out of 10 pace. And we'll hold that for 5 seconds and then we'll relax. All right, ready? So place that hand behind your back, wherever's comfortable, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And relax back down. That's 1. And back up. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back down. And that's 2. And again, back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 3. And relax those shoulders and that neck a little bit there. And don't forget to breathe. Slide that hand up behind your back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And relax back down. That's 4. Let's do one more. Back up. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And relax back down. And that's 5. Whether you just did a few of those exercises or you hung with me for all of them, good job. Now, in order to continue seeing improvements, I encourage you to try to make this a daily routine for long-term results. Over time, as these become easier, you can work up to 1 set of 10 repetitions for your mobility exercises and 2 sets of 10 for your strengthening exercises. But if you find that doing all of these at once feels like it's just too much, you can break these down into mini sessions throughout the day. You don't have to do them all at once. The most important thing is to create a routine that works for you, because you're more than likely to stick with it. And at the end of the day, you'll have more strength and function without the pain. Now, if you found this video helpful, do please give it a like and hit that subscribe button below to follow me for more exercises and tips to help you keep using your hands for the things you love to do. Until next time, thanks for watching.